Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. James C. Birdsong Jr., founder, president, and executive director of Birdsong Association of Broadcasting and Arts. Um, and tonight we are here for the third segment of the 2022 first annual Mentors of Performing Arts and Broadcasters virtual conference. Tonight we're gonna do songwriters. So at this time I'm gonna introduce Ivy, who is our moderator. She's joining us from the Caribbean islands, and she will then introduce our two panelists.
Thank you so much, Dr. Birdsong Jr. It is indeed a pleasure to be here and part of a wonderful event. Once again, everyone, welcome to the first annual Mentors of Performing Arts and Virtual Conference Songwriters Discussion. We're going to get right into it. We have a great night full of vital information for every songwriter. So if you are a songwriter or know any other songwriters, please tag them, share the post. Please do ask questions. We are here for you. So I'm going to introduce our panelists for tonight. And all the way from Detroit, Michigan, he is a multiple Stellar Award winner, CSAC songwriter, and RIAA Platinum certified producer and Dove Award nominated producer, Mr. Edward Armstead III. And also from Atlanta, Georgia, she works with songwriters and producers in the R&B, hip hop, and gospel genres as the creative director in Atlanta. At BMI, here is Marche Butler. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm fine. All is well. How about yourself?
I'm wonderful. How's everyone?
Great. Okay, so for our first question tonight, keep in mind that we have 5 minutes for each panelist. And our first question is, can you explain to our youth about your beginnings as songwriters and publishers? And we're going to start with Ms. Marche Butler.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
Sure, no problem. Can you explain to our youth about your beginnings as songwriter and publisher?
Okay, so I'm not a songwriter and I'm not a publisher. I started my journey in the music entertainment industry for executive assistant to Big Boy from Outkast. And then I transitioned and moved to BMI, which is Broadcast Music Incorporation. BMI, if you're not for sure what BMI is, we collect the royalties and licensing for our writers, producers, and artists. My responsibility as a director is just to build relationships with our affiliates, whether they're producers, writers, managers, attorneys, publishers, and on and on. And then we pretty much continue to build those relationships by creating workshops, panels, events. We have signature events, which is the R&B Hip Hop Awards. We just honored Busta Rhymes. We gave him the Icon Award. And then we also do our Gospel Trailblazers Awards, which is usually in the spring. And we also do BMI Know Them Now experience. So we just, and festivals as well. So we pretty much tap into a lot when it comes to our affiliates and just making sure that we give the platforms for our upcoming and emerging artists, and then also recognizing a lot of our legends as well.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Armstead, you?
Yes, ma'am. I actually have a lineage of music. My dad, my grandfather played and sang. My dad was actually on Thelma Records and did some things with Stax Records. You can actually find his music on YouTube all over. He has a song called Baby I Cried, where he's actually singing live on a television show. So we've had music in our lineage for quite some time. My cousin was Purvis Jackson, the late Purvis Jackson, the song with the Spinners. So it's kind of been in our family for a while, but to encapsulate it all in a nutshell, I began in 1996 is when I got my first placement. I always had an idea that I wanted to know what really made songs tick and melodies and things like that. I was always intrigued by. So my beginning started in 1996 on a group from Detroit called the Futch Brothers. And it was a unique situation because at that time, if you didn't have if you didn't meet the medium for the performance rights company, you couldn't sign up. And so I spent a lot of time singing stuff in my phone and preparing and copywriting and hoping that one day I would be able to publish a work. And that was my first time in 1996. And the songs that I did prior to that, I really wouldn't have let nobody hear, because in that early stage, you're really still developing. You're not really sure which way you want to go or how you want the song to sound. But my first placement actually was in 1996.
Wow. Wow. All right. Same. Gonna stick with Mr. Armstead. How can young aspiring songwriters succeed in the music industry now?
Well, if you're going to be a young aspiring songwriter in the music industry, first of all, you got to know the industry that you're in. Everybody wants to do the creative part. Everybody we see, every seminar we've ever done, they either want to be a rapper or a singer. Nobody wants to know the business. If you don't know the business of the industry that you're in, you're going to hate being in the industry that you're in. The passion will disappear immediately once you're hurt, once you sign the wrong contract, once you don't read something properly. You know, we get excited about creating melodies and songs and beats and all that, but if you're in the music industry, it is a business. And so I would suggest that you learn, first of all, about copyright, because you don't even have to understand publishing if you don't understand copyright, because you can't protect anything that you've done. So there'll be no publishing, and there'll be nothing that'll be really fruitful, from that. So I suggest that you find you an entertainment attorney or somebody that can help you. We never really want to invest in anything. We want to buy all the studio equipment, drum machines and keyboards and things of that nature. But you need to know this business. There are so many people who don't want anything to do with music, who are incredibly creative, but didn't know the industry that they was in. So my suggestion is learn the industry that you're in. Your craft will take care of itself. As you cultivate it, as you practice, as you watch other people that have done it well, learn the business of the music industry that you're in.
Wow. I completely agree. And Ms. Butler?
Yes, I totally agree with Edward as well. I know as creatives, you tend to forget that there is business that needs to happen. So yes, the music industry is a business. You definitely need to, especially if you're a writer and you have lyrics out there, and even if you are a producer, go ahead and reach out to copyright.gov and make sure you get your things copywritten. And then I would suggest, you join a PRO. I'm going to say BMI, of course. Join BMI. Start registering your work. Setting up all the proper, getting those splits and shares. Make sure all of those things are correct as well, because and make sure you stay away from samples if you can as well. It's just so much tedious work that comes behind things, and you just want to make sure that you have your admin stuff together and laid out, so down the line and years later you won't be getting hit with a lawsuit, or you won't be trying to go after someone that you said took your lyrics or took your tracks, and you don't have those things copywritten. So yes, I would definitely agree with Edward regarding that, just making sure that your business is intact. And then yes, start off with an entertainment attorney and just build from there. I know sometimes we want to look at friends or people like, oh, they're going to manage me or they're going to do this, but do they have the knowledge and know the business of the music industry?
Wow. Awesome. On the same question, Mr. Armstead, as you were saying, knowing the industry, if somebody is a songwriter and an artist, say they're multi-talented, what area would you advise them to go in first? Just so, they can get an understanding, okay, how they're going to know the business.
Well, I mean, whether you're a songwriter, a producer, arranger, whatever, I think knowing the business is good for any area of your gifting. Once you know the business, it will protect whatever you are doing. And the thing is, you can arrange a song And you could be in a room with 5 or 6 people that all said they had a part of the song. And it goes back to what Miss Marche was saying about split sheets. There are many people who have sat in studios and have recorded songs and all said they owned the song and all had a part of it because they may have written a song years ago and now it's blowing up on the radio and all you had was that one meeting and didn't do the business on it. And so everybody's saying they own the song. It could be somebody that said the in a song that changed the phrase and now they got a part of the song. So it's best for you to know the business of publishing, of copyright. Learn as much as you possibly can. I suggest you learn the business before you get in it. It doesn't make sense. I mean, nobody gets in a car and just takes off down the street without a license. I mean, we know people that do it, out of ignorance, but nobody really, dives into something they have no knowledge of and try to make a career out of it when they don't even know where they're going to end up. So I suggest, and if you have the inkling to be a songwriter or a producer, whatever it is, start with the business first because you may find it's not what you want to do.
I completely agree. Okay, moving right along. So can you explain, Ms. Butler, the importance of having a mentor as an inspiring young songwriter?
I believe it's very important, to have a mentor. I just won't say, just as a songwriter, but just in general. Having a mentor, it can be very refreshing at times because there may be some situations that you may not be able to navigate, through your journey, whatever, that lane is. And sometimes you come into people who have been there and done those things before. So I think it's very imperative to be honest, have more than one mentor, because as we know, yes, this is still a business, but there's different avenues and lanes of business. If you are a songwriter, definitely tap in to other songwriters that have been around for some time, because it's nothing wrong with wanting to learn, and just kind of piggyback and going off on ideas and concepts and kind of how to navigate through things. The same thing as for producers. I know and I see it time and time, we may have an intern or someone who may be an intern at a studio and then being an intern at the studio, what is it that they're trying to gain? What is the next level? And sometimes they may go into those sessions with producers or writers and pretty much learning and trying to build as well. So it's very important to have a mentor, very important.
Okay, and same question for you, Mr. Armstead.
I totally agree. The thing about a mentor, whether it's music business or otherwise, a mentor is going to be brutally honest with you and tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. And so when I was growing up and I made my mom rest in peace, I would play songs for her. And because she loved me as her son, they were #1 hits. And then I would get in circles where real songwriters were, and they were, saying stuff like, where's the structure? Where's the melody? What's the hook? And, I'm saying to myself, what is those things? I just wrote a song. My mother loved it. Y'all telling me I don't have none here. I got run-on sentences and things like that. A mentor is going to be somebody that will tell you exactly like it is. Hey, I like that. Hey, this could be better. Hey, what are you trying to do with that? And if you want to be a songwriter, you need to be mentored by somebody that's successful in doing it. You just don't want somebody that writes songs, because if they're not successful, where can they lead you? And so my thing is, a mentor is so crucial because even in your art, the area that you're pursuing, that's one thing. And like Ms. Marche said, you need a mentor in the area you're working in, but you need a mentor, period, to keep you on track, to keep you grounded, and to keep you focused so that you'll make the right decisions that can even help you or aid you in songwriting or production or anything in the music industry, because it's not a business you want to enter into not knowing or not being unsure of, because if you don't know, people will tell you, and then you'll find out that people that smiled in your face and congratulated you and said they love you was the ones that got your royalty checks.
I completely agree. Wow. And for those of you that are just joining us, once again, this is our first annual Mentors of Performing Arts and Virtual Conference Songwriters Discussion. I'm Savvy, your moderator for tonight. And we have our panelists, once again, Mr. Edward Armstead and Ms. Marsh Shea Butler. And this is all brought to you by Dr. James C. Birdsong Jr., the founder, president, and executive director of Birdsong Association of Broadcast and Arts. So, with all of that being said, let's talk about copyrights, publishing, and royalties for songwriters. How important is this for a songwriter?
Is that directed to me or Marche?
Miss Butler, she can start.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, just like, Edward and I mentioned earlier, on the conversation as we started, it's really important. It's very imperative, to make sure that you get, your lyrics, your music copywritten. So I would definitely start with copyright.gov first, just to make sure that you have that in task. And then next thing, like I mentioned before, join a PRO, join BMI. You can join as a writer. It's free registration. And if you're joining as a writer, that consists of a writer, composer, and a producer. So once you join, then you're able to register all of your work to your online account. You can also set up a publisher account through BMI as well. We're not a publishing company. I know a lot of people do get that a little confused, but you can house your own publishing company. So therefore, if you want to set up an individual publisher account, you can set that up through BMI. I believe that's a fee. And then you can also do an LLC corporation. And that's if you're trying to start or set up a label or a management company. So down the line, you can start registering those artists or those producers to your label. So those are just things that, I always like to share with people who are trying to figure out and navigate through, registering their music and where should they start. To me, those are like the key factors, because your music can be playing anywhere. It can be playing on Spotify, it can be playing on Pandora, it can be on Netflix, it can be overseas playing. And if you don't have your work registered, you're not getting a check. So you want to make sure that you get those things registered so that you can receive royalties.
You, Mr. Armstead?
Again, we've been going back and forth. Me and Ms. Marche, we just in agreement.
Right.
One thing I've practiced is that once I hear the melody, it's ready to be copywritten. So if I can sing it in my phone, it's ready to be protected. And so I take the simplest thing, because I remember I was walking through my office and I just started singing a melody in my head, and the melody turned into a Stellar Award-winning song. And if I wouldn't have protected, I sung it in my phone, came to my office and got with my partner at that time, Curtis Turrentine, and we recorded the song on his mother, and then re-recorded the song again with the late Albertina Walker, Grammy Award-winning Albertina Walker, and Prentice Williams Porter. It was called Worldwide God. The God I serve is a worldwide God. He's everywhere at the same time. You might have heard it. It did real big in Chicago. We actually flew there, went to her apartment and got her. And it was an honor because it's one of the last big hits she had, prior to her going to rest in peace. But it started with a melody I was just singing in my phone. I didn't think anything of it. And I looked up and it took life. And so my thing is, as soon as you're hearing a melody in your head, because we all know inspiration comes from God. That's where it comes from. So every melody that you hear, he's allowing you to hear it. And if it's a fresh rhema melody, you're not going to remember it because it's fresh. You've never heard it before. So your best thing is to protect it. And another thing I want to say, I've seen artists who didn't protect their music, and the song was playing all over the country, like Miss Marche said. They did not protect it. Somebody else went in and protected it and covered it, had nothing to do with writing it, had nothing to do with arranging it, and they own the song. And that's the worst thing in the world, because the Bible says a wise man leaveth an inheritance for his children's children. That means you have to own something to leave something. So if somebody takes a song from you that you created, you arranged, they weren't even in the room when you wrote it, and they go get it protected, it is their property for 70 years. And lastly, let me say, and Marche has been saying quite a bit about BMI, to let the cat out the bag. I'm a BMI writer and publisher member as we speak. So I look forward to God doing some great things.
Amen. Well, in regards of what you both are saying, and to those listening, it may seem like a repetitive thing, but it's very important, because a lot of times people do get copyrights mixed up with signing up with BMI. I've met a lot of artists that you ask them, hey, is your stuff copyright? It's like, yeah, I'm signed up with BMI. It's like, no, that's not copyright. That's not copyright. So, once again, for those listening, if you're a songwriter, want to be a songwriter, know a songwriter, make sure they're tuning in, because this is vital, important information that is right here at your fingertips on this platform. So, for young people that have access right now here on social media to showcase their skills as songwriters, how important is social media a tool in this here 21st century? We're going to start with you, Mr. Armstead, because I remember you saying way back, how you got started, and you didn't have this what we have now. So how is it different? How is it better? Is it better?
It's vastly different, and it goes both ways, because when I started in 1996, you had to submit demos to record companies. You had to get records approved by 3 or 4 different A&R directors and people in creative. And it could take weeks for them to give you an answer on a song that you just, put in their hand via CD. Now, the times that we're in, you can send a MP3, you can send a WAV file. It's a whole lot of things you can do. And instead of waiting for a label to approve you, you can just go online and play the song you just did. And then you got millions of people that have an opportunity to hear it. So it's good and it's bad, because while 1 million people are hearing it, it's 1 million thieves out there hearing it too. And so if you have not protected it, everybody has seen it and basically heard it. So it's good and it's bad. If you've protected yourself, then that could be a great audience that'll be very difficult for you to get on your own. But social media affords that to us. As soon as we hit internet, we hit the masses immediately. But by the same token, if you have not protected yourself and you have not copywritten your music, as soon as people hear it, there are people who have the wherewithal, who have the money, who have the recording studios. They can take your idea from social media and go right in the studio and record that song before you and release whatever your destiny was on a whole different level, and you have nothing to do with it. So it's kind of good and it can be bad.
So basically, you're saying it all goes back to the foundation that you both were laying with copyrights and signing up with BMI, right?
Exactly.
So the tool could be good. Social media could be good, and it could be bad.
If used properly, it can be good, because it gives you an audience that you couldn't get, and everybody wants to sell you audiences. If you look on any social media, TikTok, YouTube, everybody wants to tell you how to get more followers, more subscribers, and that stuff costs. But social media automatically puts you before people that you don't even know who's hearing it. And so if you take the proper channels, it can be very profitable, because record companies are watching that stuff every day. But if your stuff is not protected, somebody that has millions of dollars can go in the studio and put your song out today, do all the marketing and promotion, and you won't see a dime from it.
Mrs. Butler, how do you feel? Can you hear me?
And just copyright the work that you're putting out there, because we do know it's lawsuits and here and there. Now with social media, you have YouTube. So BMI, we actually stay in court a lot with YouTube and Pandora and TikTok. TikTok is one that we're staying in court with because we are here to protect the writers, producers, and artists. So if you're putting their music out, I'm not for sure if some of you all, sometimes you may play a snippet of a song or something like that and it gets taken down. Like those things aren't cleared. So, and these companies have to pay for those things to be cleared and to be played. Another thing, as social media, once you kind of are out there on social media building your brand, because that's what you're doing, you are able to kind of navigate more to like distribution companies. You can get distribution deals. You have TuneCore, you have Empire, you have so many other avenues that I feel that back in the early 90s, late 90s, and so on, we didn't have access to those things. And then it's easier for A&Rs and people who work for labels and people who actually want to do collaborations and producers and things like that to come across some really dope and talented artists. So that's why I also feel like, it's in your hands. So make sure that the decisions that you're making when you are posting content and things of that nature, make sure that you're using great judgment and also making sure that you still have the business side done.
Indeed. So, Ms. Butler, how can aspiring young songwriters, how can they approach other artists to record their songs and establish, their names as songwriters? How easy is that?
True.
That's kind of tough at times, because I know sometimes when you're first starting, I hear a lot of our writers and producers want to like go for like the top producers and the top writers, and I feel at times you don't have to really start there. But if you are able to get that opportunity, that's great. But I would say build with who is coming up with you. And I keep plugging BMI, but we have events and things that, our affiliates attend. And one of them is our R&B Hip Hop Awards. And that room is so filled with so many producers and writers and artists. That's your opportunity there to be able to network amongst each other and make some music and make some magic happen. However, if you're not with the PRO, which I really highly suggest you do, then I would have to say, look at conferences, look at panels. Like, I'm sorry there were some technical issues on my end, but if there are people that are attending this conference, that are writers and producers and artists, collaborate, exchange information. If you see volunteer opportunities that are like at music festivals or other conferences or things of that nature, volunteer, get yourself in those rooms. You can try to DM somebody all day long, and I'm sorry, I don't respond to my DMs like that, especially when it's regarding business. So I know it's a little different for creatives who are the actual artists and writers and producers, but make sure that you just kind of just stay alert when you see opportunities and things that you're invited to that's, around music or events, tap into it.
Definitely. And Mr. Armstead, your thoughts?
I hate to say it, but I agree with exactly with what she's saying, because there's so many opportunities for networking. And there are some people that think this happens overnight, like success happens overnight. But hard work and diligence pays off. I don't care who you are. And like she said briefly, start with the people that are around you. If you know that you got a friend that can really sing and you want to be a producer, start with them. Because you never know what somebody else will think once you put some time in and collab and bring y'all gifts together. And of course, we want to submit our stuff to the top producers or the A-list producers, but sometimes that avenue is not afforded, and you got to work and be diligent to get that audience. And when you get the audience, now you're ready because you've put together a vehicle that affords you that audience. In other words, your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. So you have to continue to work. As I worked and, placed my first song in 1996, it wasn't really easy. I had different relationships, but when I got my gold record, that came via Juanita Bynum for a song that I had recorded on somebody else. And she actually heard it because of a publishing situation, a blanket license, where they were playing it in fitness centers, and she heard it. And she said, I want to record this song. So within 60 days, I had sold 500,000 copies. And then since then, in 2013, it sold over 1 million. So, and I'm believing God is going to keep selling. But that was some things that, because of hard work and diligence, even though I started in 1996, that placement happened in 2006. So it don't always come and happen right away. You just got to be faithful. You got to be dedicated. You got to keep working your craft, because like I said, every song you write, you're going to love, till you let somebody that can really critically listen to it with a critical ear that'll tell you the truth. But you're going to pretty much like everything you do. Your family going to like everything you do. But you got to get around somebody that will really tell you the truth. Keep working your craft and keep listening to people who have perfected their gift. Like when I talk about songwriting, I look at people like Babyface, who has had longevity because he has perfected his craft. Even young artists right now are still singing his songs right now. And so you don't want to just look at your best friend that had a hit 3 weeks ago on Billboard and now it's over and that's your idol. I'm looking at longevity. Who does this the best? Who does this the longest, and who's professional at what they do? And I think if an artist, an up-and-coming artist or a vocalist will focus on things like that, they'll be the best they possibly can be.
I completely agree. But how did you feel with your first break? And what kept you diligent?
Is that directed to me again?
Yes, that's you.
Well, my first big break was when I got my first placement, because it's so hard to get placements when you're in a room with a lot of other writers who have relationship or may even know the artist. So I was really excited to get my first placement. And when I got my gold record, I was like over the moon, because it was something that I couldn't even have planned. And actually, in a nutshell, I had actually came back from Arkansas with Park Stewart, a good friend and brother of mine who's also on my label. And we came back, and I had no idea that I was getting sick when I came back from the conference. I ended up with a blood sugar that was over 747. And so, 400 is stroke and die. So it was nothing but the grace of God. And I was continuing to eat. I wasn't thinking about nothing. I never had any diabetic issues. But to make a long story short, I ended up having 2 seizures at home and 2 seizures at St. John's Hospital, where I went into a coma. So I was winning a gold record while in a coma. So I had nothing to do with the fact that God was opening this door for me and making a way for me until I got out. Then I found out what was really going on. But I was in a coma. They were calling me, trying to get me to sign a mechanical license, and I couldn't hear the phone. And they were saying, well, why won't you answer the phone? We called your office over and over and over. And there was nothing I could do because I was in a 3-day coma. And so because of my diligence and my faithfulness, God says, well, I'm going to honor what you've done and the labor that you've put, and I'm going to make room for your gift. And that's how the blessing came. I didn't have anything to do with it. It was all God, but because of my diligence, and I had written a song that was already recorded and somebody heard, it was able to be somebody to say, well, I want to record that song. And then God just took it and took it to another level. So I was really excited with my first big break, but I really had nothing to do with it.
Wow, that's a powerful testimony. Wow. So let's reflect on college. Okay. So how important for our aspiring young songwriters to attend college following high school to advance their skills? Like, should they attend college to obtain, or should it be hands-on experience? We're going to direct this one to Ms. Butler.
Oh, that's let's see. That who came up with this question?
I didn't.
Dr.
Okay,
Birdsong.
Blame this
so
person.
I would say,
I was saying
so
you
I
can
would
you
have
can
to say,
go
huh?
on. No, I was saying you could have blamed Dr. Birdsong, but you can continue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I would have to say, growing up, I've always been in the arts, whether it's dancing or doing plays, even like doing some sports broadcasting here and there. So going to college, I wasn't for sure exactly what it is that I really wanted to pursue and do. I was an athlete as well. So, I was like, okay, maybe I'll go into sports medicine. And then, I was in journalism. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll go into broadcast communications. So I was kind of toyed between those things, but I know that I've always been a fan of music. Always been a fan. And so me going to college, I went to Lincoln University. I went to college. I changed my major 3 times. Ended up getting my bachelor's degree as a sports sociologist. And once I graduated, I wanted to try to figure out what I was going to do next. And I tapped into Ryan Cameron, who's a big media personality here in Atlanta. Growing up here from Southwest Atlanta, I listened to him on the radio every night on B103. And then, of course, he moved to 97.5, which became 107.9. And I got involved with his foundation. It was centered around music, but it was also centered of giving back to the youth as well. And then I really started learning how to do events and put things together, which was always centered around music. And then next thing I know, I went for an interview with Big Boy of Outkast's assistant. And she offered me the position of being her assistant. A year later, I became Big Boy's assistant. And then I helped started his foundation. And by me helping starting his foundation was me being with Ryan Cameron and his foundation. So I knew how the business and the flow of things went. I say all that to say is I feel that you have to have some type of structure. Whether college is not for you, you have to have some type of structure. For me, I felt it was important for me to attend and to get that degree. I'm not really doing anything with it, but on the sociology part, I'm dealing with people, so therefore I've been able to navigate and work with lots of people, lots of personalities. So I would just advise, if you're not going to college, then I would say, it's hard to say because I have people around me who have not gone to college and they are successful. So I'm just, whatever you feel, do the best that, you're able to do, but set goals on whatever you decide to do. But you also have some type of structure. You definitely have to have that structure in place. Even if you're doing some internships or something of that nature, get that structure.
Oh, powerful. And lastly, Mr. Armstead.
Once again, I agree with Ms. Marcia. I kind of feel like it's a matter of preference. If you're in a position to go to college, by all means, go to college. There's some wonderful music colleges like Berkeley, incredible institutions. I mean, the musicianship and the producers and things that come out of there from production and engineering classes are second to none. They all tied to Disney and the Grammys, everything. So if you can go to a college like Berkeley or even Full Sail, incredible institutions. And they weren't really affordable for us and without not just so much about the money, but they weren't like available to us like they are now. And I just say anybody that has an opportunity to go on a music scholarship, or if you're saving up money for things for your career, those will be excellent choices. But by the same token, if college is not for you and you have an opportunity to do an internship, then I suggest, you take that internship, because the beauty of an internship is that hands-on experience. You're going to learn things hands-on you will never see in a college. And so, like she said, working with Big Boy, as a part of Outkast, one of the biggest rappers in the world, that's a rap group that has sold Diamond. And for those of you that don't know what Diamond is, that's 10 million copies of one record. And so to have an experience like that is second to none. You cannot pay for that. And so that hands-on experience will take you a whole lot of miles in this industry. And to be able to say, well, I worked as so-and-so's assistant, and I'm not talking about somebody having you run and get the food and and chase after a pie and all that kind of stuff. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody that's showing you hands-on the day-to-day operations so you will know. So college is great if you have that opportunity, but there are some incredible internships. Record companies offer them all the time. And I suggest if you can gain that information, I wish I would have done something like that. I was blessed because of relationships to be in studios like the great Michael Powell at Vanguard Studio, who's produced Anita Baker. I was blessed to be sitting in the studio with Pajam of J Moss fame. I've sat in the studio with them, watching them mix and record different things. And so I've been blessed to have experiences because of relationships. But I suggest if you can go to a college like Berkeley or Full Sail and you have the opportunity to get a mass media communications degree, by all means, put that under your belt. Even if you're not using it, like Miss Marche said, you still have it. And you can command a certain dollar just because you got it.
I have no other choice but to agree. All right, guys. So sadly, that was our last question for tonight. Tonight was very informative. I know anyone that's watching, you've learned a lot. And I hope that you'll take it all in and apply it. And we have a few more minutes left in this discussion. We're going to let our panelists and also myself do some closing remarks, and then we'll turn it over to Dr. Birdsong Jr. for his closing remarks. So, Ms. Butler, what do you have to say for us before we close?
I'm sorry, I did not hear the last question. What did you say?
We're having our closing remarks. What is it that you want to leave with our listeners?
I would just like to say, actually set goals. Don't overstress yourself. Make sure that you have a balance, because self-care is very important. I know we didn't really touch on this, but there have been a lot of mental illness amongst this music entertainment industry, and a lot of our young people are getting away from here. And I would just say, balance. Make sure that you're taking time out to take care of yourself as well. And just make sure that, you also just get that business done. You're being creative, it still comes with, just having that balance as well, of just making sure that your business is taken care of as well.
Mr. Armstead?
Again, we on one accord, definitely. And that's a crucial thing. And that could be a whole nother subject when you talk about mental health and stability. That is crucial. Because we all known people that have left here because of this industry prematurely, because of what they thought they couldn't have, or just being overwhelmed. I would suggest, as I said before, if you're an aspiring artist or a vocalist and you want to be in the music industry, learn the business first. You can always cultivate your gift. Don't jump out here in this industry and then get your feelings hurt and hate the industry and just disdain your whole gift and the opportunity you had to be whatever you wanted to be because of a bad experience that you had. I say date this industry, but marry the business.
I love that. Can you say that one more time?
I say date this industry, but marry the business.
Wow. That's powerful. That is powerful. And for me, I really don't want to close. I'm so excited to be on this platform. Uh, for me, being from the islands in the Bahamas, it can be a little bit dim without mentors and people that are very successful in what they do within the industry. So we don't have access really unless we fly over to the United States to go to workshops or be in studios with major artists or those up and coming. So it's trial and error for us. So this is definitely some great information. So I've been blessed tonight with some in-depth knowledge. And I just want to say in the music industry, you never stop learning. You can never know too much. And what I've learned from the night session is making sure your foundation is properly laid, copyrights, publishing, etc. And also, as you mentioned earlier, Mr. Armstead, having you have to perfect your gift and you know that you're called or your purpose to pursue your career, because you can get your feelings hurt and give up on everything. So you really have to know that this is really what you want to do and stay committed. So and so encouraging other songwriters. For some, they might get it on the first try and have a hit song. For others, 10 years later. But you have to know that you're called by God and stick to it. Trust it and know that you're on the right path.
Amen.
And so that's my 2 cents. And I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Birdsong Jr. Thank you once again so much for this wonderful platform.
Thank you all so much. On behalf of the administration and board members of Birdsong Association of Broadcasting and Arts, I'm asking everybody that's watching to please post your comments. Keep posting your comments. I personally like to thank Sivy, our moderator in the Bahamas, for taking her time out of her schedule to moderate tonight's discussion about songwriters, and then to our own Edward Armstead III. I want to thank you so much for helping us with this. And Marche, I want to thank you and Jody for your support during the 8 months we've been planning this conference and with our organization as a whole. So I appreciate all of you so much. I really, really do. And our young people, especially in the Black community, will be able to take this information and learn something, especially those who aspire to be songwriters and publishers in the music industry, regardless if it's gospel or secular or in between. So to learn more about our organization, please log to our official website at www.babaonline.org, and you'll be able to learn more about our organization, our programs, our plans, the scholarships, the partnerships we're going to be doing with our historical Black colleges, and the list goes on. Please join us tomorrow, Friday, October the 14th, 2022, for our next discussion. This will be the only discussion for October the 14th, and that's management and marketing, and that will be from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we have a wonderful group of distinguished industry professionals will be joining us for that. And on Saturday, October the 15th, 2022, we will be doing producers, record labels and distribution, radio and television broadcasting. And then on Thursday, October 20th, we'll be doing academics and award shows. Friday, October 21st will be musicians. And then October 22nd, that will be the finale of this conference. And this is when the administration and board members and I of Birdsong Association of Broadcasting Arts will close out by doing a 1-hour recap. And I want to thank all of you who's commented on tonight. I have members of my family who's watching right now. So I love my Birdsong family. So thank you all so much. So on behalf of the administration and board members of this organization, I want to thank you, CV, Savi, Edward, and Marche for taking the time out of your schedule to help us with this conference. And that will be it for this for today, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, preparing today's youth as voices in arts and broadcasting. Please post your comments. God bless you until we meet again. Please join us for Friday, October 14th, Saturday, October 15th, Thursday, October 20th, Friday, October 21st, and Saturday, October 22nd for the remainder of the 2022 first annual Mentors of Performing Arts and Broadcasters Virtual Conference. God bless you, and we'll meet again. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Marche, I want to talk to you.
Okay.
Okay, we're about to go off. Good night, everybody.
Good night, sir.